There is a rare kind of freedom in a woman who no longer feels the need to compete for attention. She does not raise her voice to be heard over the noise of others, nor does she sacrifice her peace in order to prove her worth. Instead, she chooses to step back from the stage where comparisons and validations endlessly play out. This refusal to fight for visibility creates a paradox. The less she tries to be noticed, the more magnetic her presence becomes. Her calm withdrawal from the game of recognition makes her stand out even more because she radiates confidence without striving for it. Carl Jung would describe this shift as individuation, the process of detaching from external expectations in order to align with one's own truth. A woman who chooses peace over attention is not denying her desire to be seen. She is reclaiming the right to be seen on her own terms. By stepping away from competition, she refuses to measure herself against others. She finds her value in her own essence, not in fleeting applause. This self-possession gives her a depth that the pursuit of attention can never achieve. The psychological impact of this choice is profound. By no longer exhausting herself in the struggle for recognition, she preserves her energy. She stops scattering herself across every demand for validation and instead invests that energy inward. This inner reserve gives her a serenity that others instinctively feel. People sense her composure and are drawn to it, because it is rare to find someone who does not seek approval in every gesture. Her very restraint communicates authority, creating a presence that is impossible to ignore. Everyday life offers clear examples of this power. At a gathering, she listens more than she speaks, and when she finally does, her words carry greater weight than those who spoke endlessly. In a workplace, she declines to compete for attention through drama, and her steady performance earns lasting respect. In her relationships, she does not plead to be noticed. Her calm certainty reminds others that her value is not up for negotiation. Again and again, her choice to remain centered, rather than desperate, transforms how she is perceived. This form of magnetism is not loud, but it is enduring. Unlike the fleeting glow of attention, which fades as quickly as it is gained, the respect born of her serenity grows stronger over time. By stepping away from the battle for visibility, she demonstrates that her life is not a performance, but an expression of truth. She shows that the greatest form of recognition is not being admired for appearances, but being respected for authenticity. The paradox is that her quiet refusal to compete places her in a category of her own. While others fight for temporary spotlight, she embodies a different kind of light, one that does not flicker when the applause ends. This silent magnetism makes her irresistible, not because she chases validation, but because she transcends it. Ultimately, the woman who chooses peace over attention reveals the hidden power of presence. By refusing to waste energy in competition, she discovers a more lasting kind of influence. Her calm becomes her authority, her silence becomes her strength, and her peace becomes her magnetism. And in this, she teaches a timeless truth. The greatest stage is not the one fought for, but the one created within. There is a quiet magnetism in the woman who remains calm while the world around her rushes into noise. She does not react to provocations meant to unsettle her, nor does she waste her energy trying to prove a point in every interaction. Instead, she carries herself with composure, responding only when necessary, and even then, with clarity rather than chaos. This restraint is not weakness, it is maturity. Her calmness in the face of disruption reveals a depth of self-possession that words cannot imitate. The paradox is that by refusing to fight for validation, she becomes even more respected. Carl Jung would describe this as the emergence of the archetype of the wise woman, or the sage. She does not need spectacle to prove strength, because her strength lies in what she withholds. In Jungian psychology, this reflects individuation, the ability to integrate one's inner conflicts and project peace outward. when a woman chooses serenity over validation. She reveals that she has faced her own shadows and no longer allows them to dictate her behavior. This wholeness makes her presence commanding without effort, because it communicates that her value does not depend on external noise. The psychological impact of this posture is profound. By no longer rushing to defend or prove herself, she conserves her emotional energy. She recognizes that not every provocation deserves a response, and not every criticism requires explanation. This inner filter protects her dignity, ensuring that her energy is invested only where it will be respected. Over time, her calmness becomes her shield. She learns that the more composed she remains, the less space manipulation has to thrive. What others may perceive as silence is, in truth, her greatest strategy for preserving peace. Daily life illustrates this power in subtle ways. At work, she does not compete with loud voices, yet her steady presence carries more authority. In relationships, she does not engage in endless disputes, but sets her boundaries with quiet clarity. In social circles, she does not seek to dominate conversations, but her few words leave a lasting impression. Even small gestures, a measured pause before responding, a calm refusal to escalate, communicate confidence. These actions show that her identity is rooted within, not in the chaos around her. This restraint embodies the archetype of the sage in practice. Wisdom does not need to perform, it simply is. Her peace demonstrates that she has integrated experience, pain, and lessons into presence. She carries the strength of someone who has endured storms but no longer fears them. Those who encounter her sense this maturity instinctively, even if they cannot explain it. They know they are standing before someone who is unshaken, and that awareness inspires both respect and admiration. The paradox of her serenity is that it disarms those who expect conflict. In refusing to match aggression with aggression, she changes the dynamic entirely. Immaturity feeds on reaction. Maturity starves it with composure. This is why her calm is so magnetic. It disrupts patterns of chaos and forces others to confront themselves. She becomes the one who dictates the atmosphere, not through noise, but through presence. Ultimately, the magnetism of calmness lies in its rarity. In a culture where noise often substitutes for strength, her serenity becomes unforgettable. By choosing peace over attention, she shows that validation is not her currency, and performance is not her language. Her silence speaks louder than provocation, her composure outweighs spectacle, and her calm becomes her crown. This is the hidden power of the woman who has discovered that serenity, not noise, is the highest form of influence. One of the deepest shifts in a woman who chooses peace over attention is the realization that visibility does not define her worth. For much of life, many are conditioned to equate being noticed with being valued. Compliments, approval, even envy are treated as proof of significance. Yet in time, she begins to understand that attention is not the same as recognition. Attention is fleeting. It can be given without depth and withdrawn without reason. Recognition, however, is rooted in truth. It sees essence, not performance. When a woman detaches her value from the currency of being seen, she steps into a form of freedom that cannot be taken from her. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of valuing the self beyond appearances, bringing the inner being into alignment with external life. A woman on this path no longer lives as an image to be consumed. She does not define herself by how many eyes are upon her, but by how fully she inhabits her essence. In Jungian terms, she shifts from persona, the mask built for social approval, to self, the authentic center of wholeness. By choosing to value the being rather than the seeming, she breaks free from cycles of insecurity that depend on external validation. The psychological impact of this change is profound. When attention is no longer her measure, she stops chasing it and starts preserving her energy for what matters. Her sense of self stabilizes, no longer rising and falling with compliments or silence. She becomes immune to the traps of comparison because her identity no longer lives in the eyes of others. Instead, she carries a quiet assurance that cannot be shaken by disregard or inflated by flattery. This steadiness communicates an irresistible strength. She is whole, whether admired or overlooked. Everyday life reveals this liberation in clear ways. She no longer feels the need to overshare in order to stay relevant, nor does she depend on external applause to validate her choices. At work, she focuses on excellence rather than credit. In love, she values intimacy over performance. In friendships, she cultivates depth over popularity. Each of these choices reflects the same truth. Her worth is not in how visible she is, but in how authentic she remains. And authenticity, even if quiet, always carries more weight than attention that is loud but shallow. This transformation redefines how she relates to others. She is no longer swayed by gestures meant to impress, because she recognizes the difference between being admired and being truly respected. She understands that love is not proven by constant visibility, but by consistency. This clarity changes her presence. She is not desperate to be seen, yet her authenticity makes her unforgettable. The less she seeks to shine in borrowed light, the more she radiates a light of her own. The archetype of the queen embodies this truth. The queen does not seek to be noticed by everyone. She requires to be recognized by the right ones. Her dignity does not bend to gain approval, and her presence does not weaken when overlooked. She knows that attention may come and go, but recognition born of respect is enduring. And because she lives from her essence rather than her image, her presence resonates as timeless. Ultimately, when a woman chooses peace over attention, she frees herself from the illusion that being seen is the same as being valued. She discovers that her worth lies not in applause, but in alignment, not in spectacle, but in substance. This awareness dissolves the weight of constant striving, replacing it with serenity, and in that serenity lies her hidden power. She no longer depends on the gaze of others to feel whole, because she has already recognized herself. And in recognizing herself, she becomes impossible to ignore. Another hidden power of a woman who chooses peace over attention is the natural filter she creates in her relationships. When she refuses to chase visibility or compete for validation, she quickly reveals the true intentions of those around her. Men who are insecure often withdraw, unsettled by her calm independence. They may interpret her serenity as disinterest or her boundaries as rejection, when in fact she is simply protecting her energy. At the same time, men who are mature find themselves drawn closer because they sense the depth and steadiness in her presence. By choosing peace, she automatically separates the immature from the whole, without lifting a finger. Carl Jung would explain this as the archetype of the guardian in action. The guardian does not protect through aggression, but through clarity. For a woman, her silence and her refusal to play emotional games act as a shield that keeps manipulation at bay. She does not need to explain why she values her peace. She embodies it. Her calm is the barrier that prevents her from being consumed by chaos. In Jungian terms, this is individuation expressed in relationship. She no longer projects her need for approval onto others, but guards her essence so it can remain intact. The psychological impact of this posture is profound. By no longer rewarding immaturity with attention, she stops feeding patterns that once drained her. Arguments meant to provoke her fall flat because she does not react. Attempts to manipulate her through silence or guilt collapse because her self-worth does not depend on appeasing others. This refusal to be pulled into games reveals her strength without confrontation. It teaches others, consciously or not, that if they wish to remain close, they must meet her in authenticity. Everyday life offers countless examples of this filtering power. A woman chooses not to reply immediately to a manipulative message, and the man who only sought control quickly loses interest. Another calmly withdraws from a conversation filled with disrespect, and the one who relied on her compliance is left without leverage. Another continues to live her rhythm joyfully, and those incapable of respecting her independence quietly disappear. Without drama, her peace does the work for her. It attracts only those ready for reciprocity. This calm discernment aligns perfectly with the archetype of the guardian. The guardian does not need to justify why she protects herself. She knows her energy is sacred, and she refuses to scatter it where it will not be honored. The healed woman carries this truth not as a defense, but as an inheritance of wisdom. By honoring her boundaries quietly, she ensures that what reaches her is filtered through respect. This is not distance, it is discernment. And discernment is one of the greatest marks of maturity. The paradox is that the more she withdraws from noise, the more magnetic she becomes. Those who cannot handle her silence reveal themselves quickly and fall away, while those who recognize the value of her peace step forward with greater intention. This process requires no effort from her because her serenity does the sorting. In this way, she saves herself from disappointment while also creating space for genuine connection. Ultimately, the filter created by a woman who chooses peace is one of her greatest powers. She no longer wastes energy deciphering hidden motives because her very posture reveals them. In protecting her calm, she creates relationships built on clarity rather than illusion. And in this clarity, she discovers a deeper truth. Peace is not only her refuge, but her magnet. Those who remain are those who honor it, and those who cannot are never truly lost, because they were never truly meant to stay. The most invisible yet undeniable power of a woman who chooses peace over attention is the respect she inspires without effort. She does not demand recognition, she does not plead to be heard, she does not chase to be valued, and still, people feel the weight of her presence. This respect is not given out of fear, but born from the dignity she carries quietly. Her calm composure becomes a statement stronger than any loud proclamation. She knows who she is, and she will not abandon herself to be accepted. In a world obsessed with spectacle, her serenity becomes unforgettable. Carl Jung would connect this presence to the archetype of the queen, whose authority is not based on noise or aggression, but on inner alignment. The queen does not need applause to confirm her position. Her sovereignty speaks through her stillness. For the woman who embodies this archetype, peace becomes her crown. She understands that dignity is not something to be negotiated or bargained for. It is lived. And in living it consistently, she gains a form of respect that cannot be taken away because it does not depend on external approval. The psychological impact of this inner peace is profound. By refusing to let others dictate her worth, she breaks free from the exhausting cycle of chasing attention. She finds joy in her own rhythm, steadiness in her own choices, and beauty in her own presence. This detachment from performance allows her relationships to flourish in authenticity because she no longer seeks to be validated by admiration. She is admired precisely because she does not need it. Everyday life shows how magnetic this quiet authority can be. At work, her colleagues trust her judgment because she does not speak to impress, but to contribute meaningfully. In her family, her calm steadiness becomes the anchor others lean on. In love, her refusal to beg for recognition makes her more desirable because she embodies freedom rather than dependence. In each sphere of her life, her peace communicates what words cannot, that she values herself, and anyone who wishes to be close must honor that. This posture carries with it a transformative paradox. By choosing peace instead of attention, she does not fade into the background. She shines even brighter. Her presence is felt more deeply precisely because it is not scattered in the pursuit of validation. The less she strives to be admired, the more admiration she commands. Her influence, though quiet, reaches further than noise ever could. This is why women who embrace peace often inspire others without trying. Their serenity becomes an unspoken lesson for younger women who still feel trapped by the need to prove themselves. Their calm defies cultural narratives that equate worth with noise or visibility. They embody a living example of how dignity can expand with time rather than diminish. In this way, their peace ripples outward, teaching others that respect is not begged for, but cultivated. Ultimately, the hidden power of a woman who chooses peace over attention is that she becomes untouchable in her dignity. Her calm presence commands reverence not through spectacle, but through essence. She shows that true magnetism does not come from shouting to be seen, but from living so aligned with herself that she cannot be ignored. And in this alignment, she embodies Jung's deepest insight, that individuation, becoming whole, is itself the most irresistible form of power.